Can crypto buy a seat in Congress? That's the question CoinDesk Deputy Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation Jesse Hamilton is focusing on ahead of the midterm elections next week. Jesse joins us now. All right, so Jesse, the crypto industry is pouring unprecedented levels of contributions into U.S. politics. How much are we talking about here?
Well, it's well over $80 million and may push closer to 100 before all the money is counted. It's pretty difficult to get an exact industry count because there are a lot of different ways to contribute in U.S. politics, from direct campaign giving to supporting political action committees that have an industry focus to devoting money to sort of unofficial political advertising as one way to get around contribution limits. But any way you look at it, this is serious money, the kind you usually see from more mature industry players in DC. I think it signals an arrival for crypto, good or bad, I guess, as a force in U.S. politics. Now that may not be a role everybody in this industry is necessarily excited about, but it seems kind of inevitable for those who've been watching the rise in crypto lobbying and legislation.
Mm-hmm. And where is all this money going, and what is the industry hoping to accomplish out of this?
So this is the midterm election, obviously. So the focus is on members of Congress, the House and Senate. The House is generally considered likely to flip back to the Republicans this year, and the Senate is a little trickier to predict, but all 435 voting members of the House are up this year, as always. So that's a lot of races. And the industry has sprayed money in a lot of directions, basically. And the most general industry PAC, GMI, spent money on 15 people that's tracked who went on to win their primaries in recent months. And most of those are positioned to be very likely to win their general elections next week because of party dominance in their districts, which was an obvious strategy of GMI. So they've got lots of crypto-friendly potential House freshmen there, though it's, as always, it's hard to say which committees they'll be assigned to. There are a couple of higher stakes Senate contests, too. A lot of crypto money went to Blake Masters, for instance, an Arizona Republican. That's one of a handful of races that could tip the balance potentially in the Senate. Masters is one of the most prominent pro-crypto political candidates out there this year. And there's another race that drew some crypto support, Katie Britt in Alabama, that candidate. Crypto helped her win the primary there, so she's expected to win the general and is very likely to join the Senate next year. And her crypto comments sound a bit like those of outgoing Senator Pat Toomey, the retiring chairman of the Senate Banking Committee. So she may be one to watch on the topic next year. But as far as what the industry is hoping to accomplish with all this, when the dust settles after the election, the party in charge of each chamber obviously gets to choose its committee chairs, and those leaders will pretty much run the agenda in each committee. And when it comes to crypto, we're watching several committees, but arguably the biggest are the banking and agriculture committees in each chamber. And every new member that owes his or her campaign financing to crypto, at least in part, is a potential ally for legislation. And of course, it would help for the industry to have new friends on House Financial Services, for instance, which oversees banking and securities. And that's where they're working on a stablecoin oversight bill, which was getting close this year and will be back next year, obviously. And if the Republicans control that committee, chances are it'll be Congressman Patrick McHenry in charge. He's already one of the main negotiators for the stablecoin bill, so they should be able to get back into the talks relatively seamlessly. McHenry may get a little more leverage if he's boss of the committee, so the language could shift a bit, but the bill would still have to be signed into law ultimately by President Joe Biden, so it's got to be bipartisan. And incidentally, McHenry was somebody who got some significant crypto industry contributions, and over in Senate Ag, that's where we're seeing the most progress on a wider crypto bill. And that one would give the CFTC power over the market for trading Bitcoin and other tokens that aren't defined as securities.
You also report that FTX executives seem to have an outsized part in the industry's political donations. Maybe you can walk us through that.
So when you look at the tens of millions that have been injected by the industry into these races, a few names loom sort of unusually large. There's this weird kind of two-headed political beast that emerged out of FTX, where CEO Sam Bankman-Fried became the fourth largest individual U.S. donor in these midterms, fourth largest in the U.S., which is incredible. Sort of coming out of nowhere to be that. But Ryan Salame, the co-CEO of FTX Digital Markets, has been a counterweight and is the 11th biggest donor in the U.S. Bankman-Fried is giving to mostly Democrats, and his massive curveball is that he hasn't been giving based on crypto views, but on, as he says, a candidate's ability to prevent another pandemic. While Salame has been focusing on crypto, more traditional, really, giving, focusing on crypto and supporting Republicans. So it's a very strange situation there. But between the two of them, they represent a huge chunk of the industry's campaign contributions. Bankman-Fried also represented a cautionary lesson about that I wrote about supporting novice candidates. He put millions on a relatively unknown for one of the Oregon seats, and he, in fact, spent almost $1,000 for every vote that the candidate ended up getting in this spectacular loss during.
I think his reasoning around that was, why support a candidate that is likely to win? You might as well back a candidate that is likely to lose, so that you can help in giving them a fighting chance. All right, Jesse, we got to end it there, but you can read Jesse's entire article on Coindesk.com.